So it's a pleasure to be here with you. And first of all, so if you can hear me well, please, I would like you to give me like a thumbs up on the chat box, just to make sure that you can hear me and so that you can see. Okay, lovely. Chris, all right, nice to see you, Marcio. Okay, many people here. Lovely, lovely. Wow. Okay. So, guys, it's a pleasure to be here talking to you today. I hope you find this talk useful and so that you can make the most of it. So, I will give just 2 extra minutes because there will be more people coming and joining us. So, if you could, wow, there are people from Bolivia. So, would you mind just saying where you are from? Okay, wow, Bolivia, Rio de Janeiro, Ceará, fantastic. Curitiba, Ribeirão Preto, it's quite close here. Okay, we are neighbors. Okay, BH, that is a fantastic place. Manaus, wow. Campinas, Teresópolis, wow, wow, nice. Okay, it's quite funny because yesterday I had some meetings with some people from São Paulo, and I have been living in Araraquara, and here it's super hot, and in São Paulo it's been cold these days, as far as I can remember. Okay, so I think we are ready to start, right? So, I'm here today, people, to talk to you a little bit about a project, all right, that is called Design and Implementing Activities Online. All right. Hello. Okay. So, oh, there is someone else from Araraquara. It's awesome. Okay, sorry. And I was checking the chat. I will do my best to check the chat and also talk to you. All right, I can see here on my left side here too. All right. So, and basically, this is a course that we're going to offer with Faculdade de Cultura Inglesa. Everyone can join. All teachers from all corners of the world are more than welcome to join us. And I hope that you can learn something from them, from this course, by the way, and you can make the most of it, all right? So I'm going to start here this webinar actually in the right way. Just a second, exactly. So I would like to introduce myself, that I believe that this is something important that I have just skipped this part. So as you can see, my name is Alex. I'm from Araraquara, all right? It is a hot city in the countryside of São Paulo state, quite close to Ribeirão Preto. There is some people that are talking about Ribeirão, okay? And I have been a teacher at Cultura Inglesa for 4 years, I would say, or almost four. Okay. And I have been a teacher for my entire life. I would say that I started teaching in 2007, 2006, and then I didn't stop teaching from that time on. All right. So, first, I work at Cultura Inglesa as a teacher, as you have just mentioned, and I also help some the academic department in different areas, like the cultural area, the development of products area too, and also the learning area. So I want to share with you guys a link that it's here. I think it's here on the top of your screen. And by clicking on that link, let me show you what you're going to see. You will be redirected to this link tree, and then you're going to be able to find first. So a Google Forms. This course that I am presenting to you is not ready. It will be launched soon. And in case you find it interesting and would like to join, would like to get some information about it, so just click on the first link that there will be a Google Forms waiting for you, and then you can add your email, and we can reach you when the course is ready so that you can join and participate. Okay, so quite simple. And something else here is still on the link tree. So you can find the slides of this presentation. Okay, there is a PDF format you can download if you feel like. And a presentation summary, if you don't know exactly what I'm talking about, if you have just arrived. So you can click here and get to know a little bit the topic of this webinar. And in case you want to reach me, send me a message, provide me with some feedback, all right, anything. I also added my LinkedIn profile, so you just need to click and add me there. I will be glad to add you too. All right. So moving on a little bit more. Okay. I have to say something, all right, that there are a few people that I would like to mention here that they are of paramount importance for this project. Okay, without them, probably it wouldn't happen. So, and they are Ivan Takaki, all right, who is my academic coordinator, all right, the learning coordinator. Marcio Sementino, all right, Marcio Oliveira, okay, that I believe that he's here. So he's also the learning coordinator. I would like to thank him very much for helping us. And Rafael Webster, who has been working with me in developing activities for this course and organizing everything. So Maria Eugênia, of course, she's the manager of Faculdade de Cultura Inglesa, and Rodrigo Garcia, all right, who is the post-graduation coordinator, all right, of Faculdade de Cultura Inglesa too. So thank you very much. And just to say some special thanks here. All right. And moving on. Here, guys, we have the agenda for today. So here, the point is, I selected a few topics to be talking to you, and in a way that it would summarize what the designing and implementing activities online course is all about. The first one, it's something that I would like you to reflect a little bit more. The conundrum of using tech tools in class. So I'm gonna go over this topic soon, but it's a moment that we can reflect on the way that we have been using technology in our classes. So have we been using technology in a meaningful way, in a pedagogically oriented way? This is something that I want to discuss with you soon. So I also brought for you today some activities for just exemplifying the way that we can put theory and practice. So for designing activities for developing receptive skills. So the other thing I would like to highlight is the third part of this webinar, that I will share some activities too about helping you to develop productive skills. I'll do my best to make it in a way that we could strike a balance between theory and practice. And last but not least, so devising activities, all right, for noticing and practicing grammar, all right, in a way that would be inductive, in a way that would be meaningful, and with our students' participation. All right. So moving on, let's go to the next part. So now I would like to have a few minutes for interacting with you a little bit. So the conundrum of using tech tools in class. Conundrum is something like, so what is the problem? What is happening here? So it's something that it really question the way that we use something, in this case, so technology and digital tools to be more precise. So, and something that I had in mind while I was preparing this presentation is, oops, why and when should we use technology? Do we have to use technology? I mean, digital tools, because when you think of technology, so it's a broadened terminology, it's a broadened term that you have different meanings, but let's focus on digital tools. So do we need to use digital tools in all lessons that we are teaching? When should we use? But you don't need to answer this question in the chat. I would like you to answer the two following ones. So, have you been using any digital tool in your class? Which ones have you been using? Second one, what is the objective of using these tech tools in your class? So, is this just for amusing students, or is it just for changing the way an activity of the book is? So I would like you to think of it. But before you answer, what do I mean by digital tools? So here I have a list of some digital tools that you might have already used, or you probably know them. So Quizzes, Kahoot, all right, Google Jamboard, Google Keep. Google Jamboard became very famous, I would say, like really took off these days, all right, after pandemic. Google Sheets, Pear Deck, WiserMe, Mentimeter, Padlet, WordWall, Bamboozle, so GoSynth, Vocaro, Web Camera, all right. So I would like you to think just for 2 or 3 minutes and type on the chat, which ones have you been using? So do you know any other that is not in the list? I will be checking here the chat box. Okay, I noticed that some people have already used Jamboard. It's really interesting. I couldn't agree more with you. Flipgrid, okay, Padlet, WordWall, lovely. Mentimeter, Edpuzzle. Edpuzzle is a fantastic tool for flipping our class, right? Nearpod, lovely. Wow, okay, many of those. Quizzes, okay, there's something here. Yes, that is a very nice way for motivating our students with thinking of interactive classes. This is what Roselane has posted on the chat. Okay, wow, all right. So many of them. Lovely. So we were familiar with those tech tools. And look at the second question, guys, please. What is the objective of using these tech tools? I know that Roselane, all right, she said that it's important for engaging our students, for motivating them, and having interactive classes. All right, is there anything else that we can think of when you are uh, changing your activity or like really designing an activity using a tech tool? So if you have any idea in mind, please type on the chat. Okay. So it's a way of making our lessons more agile, fun, and engaging. All right, we all use the same tech tools. Okay, that is true. Interesting. So it's a way of making the classroom more interactive, engaging our students, making it meaningful and fun. All right, to make things easier and attractive. Okay, no face-to-face classes. That is true. So I hope that things will change soon, guys. Attractive, engaging, motivating, lovely. Wow, using phonology, technology and phonology, awesome. Okay, many ideas are popping up in the chat. Okay, and they are lovely. Thanks a lot for sharing your thoughts, guys. All right, lovely. So, and what I have in mind here, mm, oh, okay, it's also a way of shortening the distance caused by online classes. That is a point. All right. Thank you very much. How do we use phonology? All right, you can type and help Thais too. That is quite fun and interesting. All right. So, and let me say something. We have been in touch with different tools, like many, as I could see in the chat. So we have a list on the screen, for instance. But what I would like you to think of, let me just change it a little bit more, is the following. So I selected a few relevant points to be considered when designing and implementing activities. So first, I think that we should bear in mind somehow the pedagogical goals. The point is, why am I using this tech tool? So am I using this tech tool in order to help my students develop listening? Am I using this tech tool in order to help my students develop any kind of skill or micro skill for developing writing? So I believe that something that is worth of mentioning is the fact that we need to think of the purpose, the pedagogical purpose of using this tech tool. All right. So something else that I have highlighted, let me share with you. So when you think of tech tools, something that you have mentioned a lot on the chat, the fact that you make this class more interactive. Students can talk to one another, they can share their thoughts, they can share what they have in mind. So this is something that you have highlighted. And this is quite fun because this is what I was thinking about when I was preparing this presentation. For example, collaboration, creativity, critical thinking, and communication. So they are the 21st century skills according to the World Economic Forum. And in a way, we can use the tech tool so that our students could collaborate with one another and they could really learn by sharing, learn from their peers, like sharing their thoughts and knowledge. So that is a good point that you have made on the chat box too. All right. So something else that I have highlighted here. Okay, we have also to think of the benefits of using this tool. All right, what I'm trying to say is, so is the is it like using the tech tool? Imagine that I have just come up with the idea that I would use Jamboard in the next class. So am I just flipping the activity of the book to to the screen, or am I really making this activity meaningful? So are they like really interacting with a different content, or they are just we are just reflecting the book on our screen? So this is something to bear in mind too. So the benefits of using this tool to our students. So sometimes we also have to bear in mind, all right, and I believe that this is something that is connected to the conundrum of using these tech tools, is the fact that sometimes it is a little bit time consuming. All right, if you prepare an activity that involves interaction, it may take some time for students get to know the tool, or even like to put the tool, the activity in practice. So that is something that I highlighted here that we can bear in mind before preparing our activity. All right. So these are some aspects that I believe that they're of paramount importance. They are relevant to be considered while preparing our lessons. All right. So moving on, I want to share something else with you. So, okay, we were talking about the conundrum and some aspects, but I would also like to highlight the outcomes of using digital tools in a meaningful way. All right. For instance, we have the learner's view. So, what are the outcomes for our learner? What can they produce in the online environment, for instance? So, as you have mentioned too, it's a way of having higher engagement levels. So it may have happened to you that sometimes our students, mainly because they have been having these online classes for quite a long time, and sometimes they have online classes and in their regular schools, and they have to go to language institutes, and they may feel tired or tired of being in front of the computer. It may happen. It can happen. So something that we can bear in mind is that when we change an activity, all right, to when we prepare it in a way of using a tech tool, we can have higher engagement levels, and students can really share their knowledge and talk while doing activities. Besides, it's all connected to motivation. So that is a way that students may feel motivated and share their thoughts during their lessons. All right. So besides, active learning. So as I mentioned, as I previously mentioned, there is also a way of really working collaboratively. So when you create groups, if you happen to be using Google Zoom, right? So you can create the breakout rooms, and students can be working in smaller groups, all right? And then they can really participate actively. Yes, exactly, the breakout rooms. So, oh, and okay, I'm trying to read the chat box while I'm talking to you too. So that is also a way. Okay, that the students feel that they are the protagonist of the class. That is a point. Thanks very much for sharing, Rosalini. Okay, yes, they can work with different resources. Mariana also shared something here. Thanks a lot for sharing. That is a good point. So it's a way that they can learn actively, really participating and producing language in a meaningful way. So it triggers curiosity. So I don't know if it has happened to you anytime. So when you present an activity, you present a new task, a new tech tool, the student may feel like I could use this activity, this task, this tech tool in my life. For example, I remember that it's something that has happened to me. I had a group that I was teaching then. It was an advanced group, and I remember that I introduced the activity, one activity using Quizlet. And one of my students was so interested in using Quizlet that she started using Quizlet with different disciplines, different subjects in her school. All right, she was using with math classes, science, and etc. It was a way that we introduced a new activity, a new task, a new tech tool, and then she decided to use it because she found that it was meaningful somehow. Okay, so Just a second. All right, I have just realized here, guys, I've received a message that I am not there on the screen. So just asking you, would you mind just telling me something that, can you see me on your screen or you can just listen to me? You can see me? Okay, all right. So I think there might be something wrong here, but as I could see, you can hear me loud and clear and see me. Okay, thank you very much. All right, so, um, okay, all right. So getting back to what I was saying, okay, I would like to share some aspects about the educator's view. All right, we were talking about the learner's view, the learner's point of view, and also I think we can focus on the educator per se. So when we use tech tools, we are able to provide students with consistent feedback. But what do you mean? So I'm trying to say that by using tech tools, you are able to collect evidence, some pieces of evidence of your students' production. You can really create portfolios if you feel like. And with those portfolios, you are able to share what you have selected to your student and really make this make learning visible somehow, because they can understand exactly what they were doing from where they started to where they are now. And this is something connected to what I have just said, creating portfolios so that our students are able to see what they have learned during the semester. I believe that this is quite useful for to think about when we are teaching kids or teenagers, that we should have somehow good communication with parents. So parents understand exactly what we have been doing in class and what their children, all right, have been learning. So portfolio and by using tech tools, for instance. Okay, so moving on, I would like to talk to you a little bit more about something that I believe that is the main objective of this short webinar. It is the fact that when pedagogically designed, when a task is pedagogically designed, digital tools provide learners with the opportunity to learn collaboratively. So when you think of designing a task in a way that students can interact with one another, they can learn with each other. They can learn from what their peers have to say in different moments, right? So, and to on the other hand, on the flipping side, I would say that these tools, these online tools that are available for all the educators, all teachers, should not be considered as a mere digital form of entertaining students. I would say that it's not just about having fun, that I don't think that this is something bad. I believe that students should have fun during the lessons, and that is a way that you see in their eyes that they are motivated and engaged. However, besides all the fun, there must be something behind the task, so that they are gonna be like really improving a skill that they decided to focus on. All right. So I don't know if you agree with me. You can also share on the chat. Okay. So I can also see it here. Now, that is the point of our conundrum, something that I had to highlight here. So we have activities that focus on something that is fun and activities that we really want to develop something. And I would say that the ones that we intend to develop a skill, they are the ones that we should consider while preparing an activity. Moving on to the next topic. Okay, I would like to share something with you about receptive skills. So after telling you that you have to prepare activities focusing on how to develop a skill, but how can we do it? Exactly. So first of all, I have here receptive skills. Do you remember which ones they are? So there are two. Yeah, I'm waiting for messages in the chat just to make sure. Okay, somebody's writing. Aha, listening and reading. Thank you very much. I couldn't agree more with you. Exactly. So, receptive skills, all right, they are called this way because they do not request that the students really produce language. I mean, they are going to understand the language. The focus is understanding and not really producing. Yes, Elena also highlighted here, and Maria too. Yes, input skills, they come lovely. So, and here I have some sub skills, micro skills that you can choose. I don't know, for example, imagine that I'm going to prepare an activity for tomorrow's class, and I would like to focus on gist, or I don't know, for detailed information, for finding detailed information in a listening passage. So I can select exactly which one of this set of sub skills and micro skills I can choose for really designing my activity. And sometimes, I would say most of the time, you are going to be practicing more than one. So you can start your activity by practicing gist, and then you move for focusing on detailed information. All right. And the same applies to reading. And I would say, since they are receptive skills, their sub skills and micro skills sometimes they overlap, right? For example, if you think of gist, it's also possible to see gist activities for writing and also for listening. All right. So this is just something that I would like to highlight. So you can choose the micro skill, the sub skill that you want to focus on using a tech tool. All right. And thinking of this, this course, Design and Implementing Activities Online, focuses on choosing bits and pieces of skills like sub skills and micro skills so that we can develop an activity and then you can implement in your lesson. So there is a set of activities that might be useful, might come in handy while preparing classes. And I would like to show you some. And okay, the ones that I'm going to present now, they are connected to activating students' schemata, all right, activating schemata, also the prior knowledge of the students, so how much they know about the content, learning from others, active participation, and that is a nice way for enhancing critical thinking. All right, so by doing activities that focus, for example, here, as you can see on my screen, pre-listening and reading tasks. All right, so when you start thinking of gist, for instance, right? So actually, I'm focusing on pre-listening and reading, by the way. And thinking of this, I would like to share an activity that was designed by Rafael Webster, all right? That is one of our course tutors. And this activity, as you can see on my screen, I have been using he has used Google Jamboard to facilitate the activity, all right, the task. And basically, it all starts with this screen. I think if I click here, I can show you. Yes, okay, here it is. So simple. There are pictures that students should think of it. I think I will click here, and then you can see the activity. Okay, all right. So here I have two questions, all right, that can really trigger students' curiosity, all right, by focusing on the pictures. And then after that, we can move to the text and then ask students to look at the titles and the images and what are the two texts probably about. So that is a way that students really can think of the activity of the text and how to start reading the text. And so one student could read the text one, and the text one is probably about something, all right? So this activity was adapted from outcomes, as you can see on my screen. And also something that I want to highlight is the other side, all right? So the other student could focus on the text too. So what are the main points of the second text? So this activity can be shared with our students really by by clicking on sharing, so they can have the link and really post their comments on Google Jamboard. What I like the most about Google Jamboard is the fact that everybody can work at the same time and you can see the results coming. Okay, so you can click here and then type your opinion and what you have to say after having discussed for a while. All right, this is the one that I want to share with you. The objective of this webinar is not really to show you how to do it, to really click here and really make it almost as a tutorial. But I would really advise you to go to Google Jamboard and try to start using it if you haven't started yet. But if you want to know a little bit more on how to use this tech tool or any of the tech tools that I'm going to present here, so you can join our course. All right. So let me just go back here. All right, but I want to share something else too. Okay, so this is another activity. All right, this one was taken from, as far as I can remember, New English File. That is a very common book for teaching. It's very teacher friendly. And it starts, my idea here, it was focusing on pre-teaching some vocabulary. The students were able to see some new words. Let me just click here that I think it's going to be better to talk to you about it. Oops, just a second. Okay, yes, it's loading. So there are some words that they could really define if this is connected to teenagers or elderly people. But what I had in mind while preparing this activity is the fact that, so it's a little complicated to teach students just these words by categorizing, like these ones belong to teenagers and the others belong to elderly people. So after really having their conclusion, they are in groups, they can think of the way that the words would connect it to each one of the groups. So I would go to the critical thinking part. For example, here I chose just a number. In what way could these stereotypes be damaging? So perhaps this is something that the students are not sure about. So they think that, like, it's quite clear for me that this adjective is connected to teenagers. This adjective is connected to, I don't know, to elderly people. But that is not the point, right? The point is helping our students to see what is not clear, what is not on their faces. So, and by asking them to discuss stereotypes, so how using simple adjectives for describing people can be damaging too. So that's a way that we can start pre-teaching vocabulary and also pre-reading activity. So the text that they read, it was connected to stereotypes, and they could share their knowledge and discuss these points. But mind you, activities like this, something that you must bear in mind is the fact that it might be time consuming. So sometimes when we are preparing our lessons, we know that pre-teaching activities or pre-reading and pre-listening activities, they should be quite fast. However, if your focus is really opening your students' minds and helping them to see what is not so clear, I believe that it's worth of spending some extra minutes in doing activities like the one that I'm sharing with you right now. Okay, so oops, let me go back to our presentation. Oops, okay, here it is. Okay, so is that okay here, guys? So far, so good? Okay, I can see the chat here. I'm gonna move on to the next one, okay? Yes, please, if you have any questions, you can also ask me at any time you want. All right, thank you. So, moving on. Now, we were talking about receptive skills. Now, I'm gonna go to the productive ones. And, but something before the productive skills, I would like to share something that Jeremy Harmer and How to Teach English, a book that was published, I would say that this is before 2001, because I think that the 2001 here is the 6th edition or the 7th one. All right, but anyway, but something that he mentions is this, that when you have students that are really connected to the topic, connected to your lesson, so things are learned much better. So, and I like so much this quote. So things are learned much better if both our minds and hearts are brought into service. So if you can really connect your students to lessons, so we know that that is a way that you are engaged to your lesson, in the lesson, right? And so students, right? And I really like this quote, and that is the reason that I decided to highlight here. So, I think it's a way to connect to the previous activity, like helping our students to see something that was not clear, and then they are somehow connected to the lesson too. All right. Now, okay, with no further ado, okay, yes. Now let's focus on productive skills. So, would you mind telling me the other two skills that they are the output skills? Yes, lovely. And yes, it's a dummy question, right? Okay, you are lovely. Writing and speaking. As you know, productive skills are called this way because it requires that the students produce language. All right, when you come to think of speaking and writing, the students are really producing something, are producing in the target language. Thank you very much for sharing in the chat. So, and yes, I highlighted some skills and also micro skills connected to speaking and also writing. For example, you can focus on intonation, accuracy, appropriacy, fluency, as you can see on my screen. And when it comes to writing, so drafting, planning, and editing, so they are the most common ones. And then we have something more specific that we could say that they are the micro skills that Brown also highlights in his book, Principles of Teaching. All right, as far as I can remember, this is the right name of the book, but this is in the bibliography of this short webinar. Okay, I'm sorry if I had a mistake with the name of the book. All right, so and then we have the micro skills. So, and I want to share something here. Okay, exactly about writing. So planning and drafting. I believe that this is the skill that I decided to start working with my students using a tech tool. But what are the benefits of using of planning and drafting, but using a tech tool? So the ones that I highlighted here, using appropriate chunks of language and really producing. So the students were exposed to a model and then they need to produce. So while producing, they can personalize the chunks of language that you have shown them that they have been exposed to. So, what else? Selecting relevant information to be added to the draft. When students are discussing in groups, in breakout rooms, when they are using Zoom, for instance, they can really think of what is relevant to be using this sort of text that we have been working on. That is also a way of fostering collaboration and creativity, mainly because if you think of writing, a productive skill. So it's something that you really need to think carefully about the words that you're going to be using in your text. So it requires some thinking time. And last but not least, I would also like to highlight that this is a nice way of collecting evidence for constructive post feedback. And then we teachers, we can clearly provide the students with feedback in a meaningful way, even in speaking and writing. I would say that the same applies to speaking. The activity that I have here and I want to share with you is this one. Students were required to write an application letter. And they had already been exposed to the model, and they knew that it would be there were some common chunks of language that they could use in this application letter. And let me just click here and show you the activity in a better way. Okay, loading. All right. So what I decided to do was the following. We had the introduction, the development, and the conclusion of this application letter. There were some specific piece of language that they could use for describing and writing their own application letter. I decided to have them here, and I gave them some hints because I believe that this is also a way of really helping, enabling our students to think further. and really to think of problem solving. Here, they should have four chunks of language. On the other side, they should have six, and also for the conclusion, they should have five. I decided to keep this piece of information here because while they were really like putting the words in the chunks in the right place, they could also think of, I need four. I need four chunks in this part. I need six and five, and so on and so forth. All right. And then, of course, I mixed everything, and then they were able to really put, uh-oh, yeah, okay, you can see my slides? Okay, lovely. All right, so I saw a message on the chat. Lovely. And then they could really put the words and the sentences in the right place. And after doing this and discussing that we should have four sentences, six and five sentences, they could produce language. So what I decided to do was the following. I selected somebody who was really special to history that we have here. And then I asked them to create an application letter for this person, for instance. So imagine that this person would like to have a job at UNESP University, and then she should have an application letter. And I put some information here, and they could really use the piece of information that we have on the left to add to their own application letters. The thing is, since it was a group activity and we were thinking of collaboration, uh, okay, all right, I think, okay, they can find a way of looking at the presentation. All right. So, and since it was an activity that they were together and discussing in breakout rooms and etc., students were able to decide which piece of information should be relevant to be added to the application letter. So that was a nice way that they could really think and decide. So this part is important, this is not, and really have like the replication of the model that they were previously exposed to. So this is just to give you an overview of the activity, okay? And I hope that you find it useful, and then you can implement in your tests, in your classes. Besides this one, let me share something with you. And Harmer again, he also mentioned that the process of writing, it's not all about like planning, drafting, editing. It's not linear. We don't follow like this idea that we have. First of all, I have to plan and then I have to draft and then I can edit. No, it's not linear. This process, it's really recursive. So we have to replan, redraft, re-edit. And while they were discussing breakout rooms, they were able to really redo things together. So in making decisions. And that is a way that would be meaningful to use a tech tool for developing writing. What else? I want to share something else with you. Now, focusing on speaking. The activity, the tech tool that I want to share with you, it's GoSynth. Have you ever used GoSynth before? It's for podcasting. I don't know if you have. If you have, you can write on the chat. No, not yet. Okay. All right. Good. So maybe you can find it useful and maybe you can implement in your lessons. Basically, GoSynth, you can create groups for students to post their audios. They can listen to one another, so they can listen to each other's production, and they can also write if their comments, and they can comment on everyone's post. I believe that this is also a nice way for having better group cohesiveness. So students are able to really listen to one another and understand that this is a safe environment that they can learn from others' point of views and etc. Basically, let me just click on the link and then I can really just walk you through the activity. GoSynth, it's quite simple to use. When you create a channel here, there will be a code, and this code you can share with your students. Of course, you need just to guide them on how to use the activity, how to use the tool, and they are able to create, you have different podcasts. For example, this one is my, my group. And then we have podcasts. So in this case, I used this activity, for instance, in class. And my students, I did this with them, and it was a group of kids, and we created a podcast together. And then in this case, the students were not with their cell phones in class, and then they could use my cell phone. All right, it was during a face-to-face lesson, of course, but it works fantastically well when you think of adults that they are able to use their phones, and then they can also produce language while they are not in class. I don't know if it happens to you, but sometimes the students are afraid of really speaking and recording. And while they are at home, they are able to listen to themselves, like record and really record again if it is necessary, and then come to a final outcome. And the thing is, by doing this, you are collecting evidence again, and you can provide them with feedback, all right, in a meaningful way. So, quite simple, and provide them with consistent feedback. I think I highlighted something else that I want to share here. Yes. And then we are moving to the last part of this webinar. And I would like to share some things connected to systems. Okay, when you think of systems, as you know, we have four of them, that they are basically grammar, vocabulary, phonology, and discourse. So they are the language systems. And we have the skills that we have previously talked about: listening, reading, writing, and listening, reading, writing, and speaking. Okay, so four skills and four systems. The activities that I would like to share with you now, they are focusing on grammar. And I'm going to be a little bit fast because is running out. Okay, so the point is, when you think of grammar in a way that students could work collaboratively, so we can think of the process of teaching grammar inductively. So how? By using guided discovery. So, but how can you use guided discovery in the online environment? So I have some activities that I want to share with you right now. And we can also focus on gamification for practicing, like when you have the practicing moment of your lesson. So you can gamify activities by using tech tools. And that is also a nice way for enhancing collaboration and problem-solving competences. Let's go to the task per se. All right. The tech tool that I was using here in this activity was Google Docs. And let me show you. Okay, I think by clicking here, it's way better to see. All right. Basically, students were exposed to text, and after the text, we were working on language, and after working on bits and pieces of language, we worked on the grammar part. So here we have a list of sentences that the focus here was working on the perfect tenses. I selected the sentences that I could find in the text that use the continuous tenses, all right, the continuous tense, by the way, and the continuous aspect. I'm really sorry. And they were able to go step by step discussing each part of the activity. So I usually create one file for each group, and then I have an online folder, like using Google Share, and then our Google Drive, and then students are able to click there and find their group's names and work on it. That is a nice way that students are working collaboratively, and we are teaching grammar without spoon feeding them, without telling the rules. They would come up with the rules by being exposed to examples. And it really help them to feel a little bit more engaged in the process of grammar. I don't know if it happens to you, but it's quite common to see that it has happened to me, that when you are teaching grammar and then students feel like, now that is the moment that I have to be like sitting here and listen to the teacher. But should it be always like that? So this is something that we could bear in mind, all right, we could think of while preparing our lessons. Let me just, okay, go back to to our presentation. Oops, here we are. And I have just one more activity that I would like to share with you. Okay, by just saying a few words about guided discovery. That is a way that we can encourage independence and makes learning more memorable because the students are involved in our lessons. So they are able to really think that grammar, it's something that we can practice. It's not something that we just have to listen passively, like the way I said before. And something that I would like to say, all right, is this. If analysis is done in groups, is a meaningful communicative task. They are using language to talk about language. Okay, the way they learn. All right. So just to highlight something else here. And the last tech tool that I want to talk to you, it's about quizzes. All right. So quizzes has changed recently. Now we have this part that you can prepare lessons there, and you can prepare slides, and in the middle of your slide you can also add questions. Yes, and by looking at the questions you can check whether students are really focusing on the content that you shared. Oh, let me click here and show you this activity. And I believe that this is also a nice way for flipping our class. Uh, yes. All right. So this is a simple activity that I designed just for a sample here of this of illustrating quizzes. And here we have basically. Here I have some sentences. They should come up with some conclusions. What is the difference between using stop to do and stop doing? And then there would be a question. When you think of stop to do, stop to buy, what does it mean? So they should think of both definitions that we have here. And then perhaps I'm going to click on one. Okay, so that is the right one. Okay, and you can see that this is a gamified. There is a score. All right, there is some competition, and then there is the other one, some explanation. Oops, move on, and then I don't know. I have to check and then answer the question, and then here we are. And the thing is, there you can provide them with some feedback on the task, on the question that they answered, and you can also share with them videos so that they can watch and get to know a little bit more and understand more about the topic. And that is a way that they could understand more before the lesson. They could practice and know the content before the lesson and get ready for the day of their lessons exactly. All right, so in other words, that is a way of flipping our classroom. So helping our students to feel engaged in the research project, in the research process, by the way. Oops, going back to our presentation. So in a flipped classroom, so the aim is to enhance the teaching and learning process with the use of technology. So it's a way of allowing our students to interact with teachers, peers, and learning material in and out of lecture time. So in case, just to illustrate what flipped classroom is, so we can think of this way. All right, but of course, there is something else that the idea that involving our students in the process of researching and sharing what they could come up with while doing this process. All right. And just to finish, I would like to share with you a checklist that Rafael Webster came up with. And here we have some questions that we can think of before preparing our lessons, before using a tech tool. Why am I using this tech tool? Is it useful? So is this just for fun, or there is something behind, something that I really want to teach? What else? Who is the best? Who is this best tool for? For example, is this engaging for my teens group, for instance, or for my adults group? So there is no better person to know this than the teacher, right? Because it's all about you knowing your group profile. What is this online tool best used for? So what is the tool, what is the skill that I want to use this tech tool in the lesson? Is it worth using? So what is the point of using this tech tool? So is there any kind of thing that a students will really learn, or perhaps it's just for fun? But there is no problem if this is just for fun. So in a certain way, I believe that students should have fun during the lesson. And of course, there would be a moment that, oh, this is something for fun. But even when things are for fun, they also learn. All right. Here are some aspects that I would like you to consider when preparing your lesson, just as suggestions, of course. And last but not least, I would like to thank you all for being here with me this whole 1 hour here. And I hope that you found these activities interesting, engaging, that you feel motivated to implement them in your class. And mind you, just as a final reminder, if you click on the red button that must be on the top of your screen, okay, or even by typing on your browser linktree/Alex Rios, you are going to be able to see this screen, and then you can fill out the form and get informed when this course will be available for you to join. And mind you, this course is for free. We have been working hard on developing activities and bridging the idea of having theory, bringing theory to practice. It's better said. All right. You can also find the slides here and the presentation summary if you have just arrived, okay, just in case. And if you want to shoot me a message or add me on LinkedIn, so this is my profile, all right? I would love to hear from you and have your feedback. All right. So in case you have any questions, I'm here to answer. And while I answer the questions, I'm going to keep on the screen the further reading, okay, just in case you feel like, and some suggestions that you can go further and perhaps read a little bit more about the topics that I have shared with you. Okay. Oh, thank you very much, Adriana. Thank you, Susie. Thank you, Daisy. All right, Claudia. Okay. Can we have a certification? Okay. I believe that the certificates you are going to receive on your emails, okay, soon. All right. Glad to hear that. Thanks, Marcio, for being here. Thanks, Ghislaine. All right. And one more time, thank you very much. In case you have no questions, all right, I wish you all the best in your lessons. All right. And I would like to thank something that I have just forgotten already and just remembered. Thank you, Disal, for inviting me to have me here and sharing some knowledge with you all. Okay. Thank you, Alejandra. All right, Maria. Thank you. Okay. I think that's it. All right. See you next time, everyone.